all to the inductions for the incoming SRC. Before we continue, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which ARC and UNSW operates. That's the Bedjgul, Gadigal and Ngunnawal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to extend my respects to the traditional custodians of the land of which all of you are dialing in from. I'm dialing in from WA, so that's Whadjuk Noongar land, and also extend those respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders that are joining us here today. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. I would encourage everyone that's dialing in from home to drop the name of their land or the traditional custodians of their land into the chat so that we can all see where you're dialing in from. Moving on. So we'll go through a little bit of housekeeping. This is more so relevant for the people in the room, but we'll do it for everybody. There will be breaks. There are bathrooms. Lucy can show you the closest bathroom for those of you in the room is actually in the car park. But the other less hard to find bathrooms are if you exit the ARC reception and head down the stairs on the right, you can go into Goldstein or Colombo and there are bathrooms in there. The timings we'll go through on the next couple of slides, but some sessions may run early, some may run late. It's just all part and parcel with how quickly people talk and how many questions we get. For those of you that are online, I'd really love for you to keep your cameras on if possible. This induction is for you, not for us. So seeing you engaged is the best use of our time. And lastly, if you're online, please drop your questions in the chat or raise your hand. If you're in the room, just kind of yell out in a bit of a break in the talking, and we can get to your questions. Try and hold your questions to the end of the sessions, as we're likely to cover some questions sort of as we go through slides. Are there any questions? Oh, this session is also being recorded, so that if you need to refer to it later, you can. We will also package up all of these slides and they'll be loaded onto the SRC Insider page, which I'll get to a little bit later, and you will be able to kind of refer to it and use the links and the content of today's sessions. Any questions on the layout of today so far? No, brilliant. Moving on. Okay, so this is a quick agenda for today. Again, the timings will likely change as we get, I'm a quick talker. Nick might be slightly slower, so we'll see how we go. But we're going to do a bit of introductions to myself and to an overview of ARC. We'll have some reps from the ARC's executive team come through and just tell you a little bit about what they do at ARC. Lucy and I will go through the most exciting session of the day, which is ARC SRC admin. So it's things like how to use your budget, how to apply for approvals, how to submit your papers for meetings, etc., etc. Nick Palmer, who is covering Naonica, she's off on leave today, so Nick will be covering her sessions. We'll go through how to deal with UNSW or how to kind of work with them if you are working with them. Nick and Paige, more so Paige, I believe, is going to go through the charter. We'll have a lunch break. Lucy's organised some lovely food. So again, if you are online and you can get down to the ARC reception area, please head down and get some food. And then after that break, Nick will go through council background and continuity. Aya and Leora will be going through a bit of community engagement. They've been particularly successful in the events and campaigns that they've run in previous years. So would love to get some insights from them to give to you, to help you. Paige will go through your council vision for 2023, and then there'll be a bit of a wrap up and what's coming next. If there are no questions, and you can all read that, so it probably wasn't super helpful, but if you have any questions, please ask now. Otherwise, we will shuffle on. Right. Okay, so I am going to be covering some of this content in lieu of our fearless leader, Shelley, the CEO, who is also on sick leave. It's just that time of year. But firstly, congratulations on being successful in your nominations for all of your respective positions. If 2022 was anything to go by, I know that we can expect some brilliant things from you. A successful Student Representative Council is a really strong element of ARC's value proposition. So please know that we are here to support you and to do what we can to help you succeed. Now, by way of introduction, my name is Joelle or Jo. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Executive Officer for ARC. alongside Lucy, who will introduce herself in a second. We look after the ARC board, SRC, PGC and IRC. So essentially everything sort of governance related to ARC, that is our jam. Lucy, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Yeah, so my name is Lucy and I'm the Governance Admin Officer at ARC. So I kind of work on the gel as a team together and we just kind of look after all the admin side of things. Yeah.
Perfect. So essentially come to Lucy or I if you have anything admin, governance-y, process, policy related, and we will either help you or point you in the right direction. I'm actually quite aware that this is probably the first time a lot of you have been in the same room, virtually or physically. So I would love to do a quick round the room before I start going into the, what is ARC and what we do. I'd love to do a quick round the room and just get you to introduce yourself, your pronouns, maybe your degree and what your incoming position on the SRC is. We'll start with people online just because it's easier for me to navigate. Let me just get the list up. First person in my list is Caleb Watts.
I'll keep this quick because I'm on the train. Hi, my name's Caleb. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the incoming welfare officer. And I study computer science and arts.
Brilliant. Thank you, Caleb. Next on my list is Cherish.
Hey, can you hear me? Hey, my name's Cherish. I forgot what I was meant to say, but
Your name, pronouns, incoming position.
My name's Cherish. I'm she, her, and I'm the incoming education officer. And I'm also studying. I've changed degree a few times, but now I'm doing Bachelor of Arts, majoring in history and politics.
Awesome. Thanks, Cherish. Next we have Chiara. Oh, I'm just going to mute Cherish. There we go. Sorry, I don't know if you heard me there, Chiara. Are you there?
Hi. Can anyone hear me? Can everyone
Yep.
hear me? Cool. My name is Kiara Moore. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been elected as a Councillor A.
Amazing. Thanks, Kiara. Corwin?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm Cohen. Use he, him pronouns. Incoming Councillor B. And I study maths.
Amazing. Thank you. Daniel?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan or Daniel. Pronouns are he, him, and I am coming in as a Councillor A and I study PPE.
Incredible. Thank you. Pranav?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, my name is Pepsi. I go by they, them pronouns, and I've been elected as 2023 Queer Officer. And I'm doing Bachelor of Aviation.
Wonderful. Thank you. Rosie, if you're around, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yep, sure. How
Oh,
you going? Sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Rosina, or just call me Rosie. I'm continuing as the Indigenous officer. My pronouns are she and her. And is there anything else I need to include, Joelle?
What are you studying, Rosie?
Oh, I'm studying a Bachelor of Architectural Studies.
Awesome. Thanks, Rosie. Okay, now forgive me here because I have Disabilities Officer and there's no name against it and I don't have my list up. I'm so sorry. Would you introduce yourself and I will get that fixed?
Hey, that's me, Michael.
Hi, Michael. Thank you.
Yes, hello. I'm the incoming Disabilities Officer. Pronouns he, him, and I'm currently studying a PPE degree.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Michael. And then Harrison online.
Hey everyone, so my name is Harrison Zhang, pronouns he, him. I'm the incoming ethnocultural officer and I'm currently in my fourth year, of studying a Bachelor of Commerce and Law.
Incredible. And it looks like that room in person has slowly filled up. I can't see because you're all a tiny box on my screen. So maybe Paige, could you point to some people and get them to introduce themselves, please?
Nick, you're going first.
It is. No, power has got to your head. Nick, Harbour, he, him pronouns, the outgoing General Secretary for this year.
I'm Paige. I'm she, her pronouns. I'm the incoming president for this year, and it's my 3rd year of engineering and arts.
Really? Oh, I'm Leora. I use she, they pronouns. I'm the incoming career officer alongside Pepsi, and I'm also in my 3rd year of engine arts.
Jeremy, he, him, Bachelor of Arts, Councillor B. A.
Hannah Lawton, incoming enviro officer, studying arts, majoring in politics, minoring in Indigenous studies.
Hello.
Giga.
Thank you so much. All right. So now that we have gone through our little round the room, let's go back to the slides. I think I've got them. Yep, they're up there. All right. So I'm here just to give you a little bit of background on ARC. This slide is essentially a bit of a history lesson and a bit of a kind of structure lesson, just for your information, because I think sometimes it can be a bit ambiguous as to who we are and what we do. And also the last few years have created a little bit more uncertainty on campus, given most of our lives have been online. So for those history buffs, ARC formed in 2007. We formed as a result of voluntary student unionism, which saw the 4 student organisations that existed at the time fold into one. So that was the Postgrad Council, the Student Guild, the Student Union, and then the Art and Design Council as well. Another thing to note is that we are not the Australian Research Council, which is why our name is ARC, which is a capital A, lower R, lowercase c, just to not get confused with any other business acronyms that exist around. And it is a pet peeve of our CEO when she sees it in capitals. So I highly recommend not using that. We are a company limited by guarantee, and we're also a not-for-profit. So we're a registered charity with the ACNC. We are entirely independent from the university, but we are financially supported by them. Our support agreement with the uni, which is currently valid through to 2025, so we'll be negotiating that in the coming years, mandates that our spending, based on that funding they give us, is aligned with those various categories of SAF. As you might know, if you've delved into the SAF legislation, those parameters or categories of SAF are relatively broad, which means that we essentially get to use our discretion in the programming and the initiatives that we deliver based on what students are interested in or in need of at the time. So in short, we are responsible for providing all the services and programming for the students of UNSW. And as we say at ARC, it's sort of everything outside of the classroom. You will hear shortly from some members of our executive team who will give you a little bit more insight into the different departments of ARC and how we run. Any questions on that before we move on? Incredible. Next slide, please, Lucy. Okay, so just like many organisations, we have a strategic plan. I'm not going to spend a heap of time on ours because it's actually about to expire. As you can see, it runs through to 2022, and the new current draft, but the new strategy is actually going to the ARC board, which I'll explain about shortly, for approval next week. So I'll still talk through this one quite briefly because the new strategy is very much a similar vibe, but it is going to be updated. So you'll see a new strategy launched likely early 2023. One of the things that is not changing, though, is the ARC mission, which is to create the best student experience. It's essentially broad and ambiguous. Sorry, it's intentionally broad and ambiguous because we know that the student experience means something different to everyone and that journey at uni is ever changing. For some students, it might be, you know, competing at uni games and going to every roundhouse session party or pool competition that ever happened. But for other students, it might just be visiting Food Hub once a week or going and getting some free legal advice from one of our lawyers. So we have intentionally made our mission statement a broad, all-encompassing kind of statement so that we can continue to pivot and migrate within that to deliver what is required for students, knowing that that will be different to everyone. If you can move on to the next couple of slides, that was student experience. Under the current strategy, we have 3 strategic priorities. The first one being, next slide, Lucy. Having the best clubs and volunteering. Now, this first one is currently focused on, you know, the sort of most widely recognised and engaging community building program that we have at ARC, which is the clubs and volunteering programs. We have over 300 clubs and societies and 20 odd volunteering programs. In the new strategy, this will be pivoting to be more focused on a community and connection piece, which sort of further encompasses all the different ways that ARC supports or facilitates different communities on campus. So the new strategy will talk about ARC delivering on these opportunities, but also enabling students to create those opportunities for other students to connect. A great sort of example of that being the Student Representative Council and the Postgraduate Council. Obviously having, 300 clubs, that would be near on impossible for us to sort of personally deliver every single initiative that those clubs and societies kind of run. So we are very focused on also empowering students to deliver things to other students, because you are best placed to know what students want and need and will engage in. The next strategic priority is being the best ARC we can be. This is the pillar that's actually changing the most. We will be pivoting this one to be more focused on wellbeing or wellness and support, as these are areas that demand more focus now. Wellbeing has always been one of our supporting pillars, but we're essentially going to elevate it to being a core focus of ARC alongside other support services and initiatives. We continue to focus on delivering initiatives in this space within our capacity and remit. Sometimes this means we aren't necessarily able to deliver on everything that students need, but it does mean that we can advocate to the uni for it. For example, we don't see ourselves delivering the counselling service at UNSW, but we are very aware that that counselling service at UNSW needs to be improved and expanded and better resourced. So we as ARC work with the SRC, the PGC and the ARC board to make sure that we are advocating and speaking to the right people at UNSW to make sure that that is being advocated as best we possibly can. We primarily operate in the sort of prevention space. So another example would be Food Hub. That would fall under this new priority. And then lastly, the pillar that's not changing very much at all is committed to the future. I won't talk about this one too much because it's actually essentially more of an internally focused pillar, and it's basically making sure that ARC is here forever. So it's focused on our commitment to both the financial and the non-financial longevity of ARC and how we can ensure that we can continue to be set up to deliver and expand all of our services for students. And then lastly, we have 7 ARC values. The essence of these values won't be changing, they will remain the same. However, we're essentially going to compress these down to 5 to make them a little bit more succinct. The primary value that we have is putting students first, which will be changing to students at the centre. So same vibe, different words. Essentially, it's to reflect that the student experience will always remain at the core of what ARC delivers. I won't run through all of the other values. I think they're relatively self-explanatory. Any questions on ARC structure or ARC's values or strategy? Love that. Okay, moving swiftly on. This next slide would actually typically have been delivered by Naonica, and I did not warn Nick about it, so I will quickly cover it off. As you may or may not be aware, the president of the SRC actually has a seat on the ARC board, which again, I'll run through in a minute. By definition of their position as president, same situation exists for the Postgraduate Council. This is to ensure that the link between ARC and the councils that it oversees is tangible and visible, and that the values and mission of ARC continue to flow through to the councils that we facilitate. While the SRC is an autonomous body, the core expectations of the council are listed here, but also are further clarified within your charter, which page we'll go through a little bit later. Let me just get to the right slide. So treating staff and students with respect, representing ARC to the best of your abilities. Now, I know that you don't necessarily represent ARC as employees of the organisation, but you are a council that falls under our kind of our ARC, our umbrella of student life. So making sure that you are presenting the best, putting your best foot forward at events and when communicating with UNSW and when you're advocating. And to just make sure that you are representing the entirety of the SRC or the collectives that you represent, not your personal views or opinions. This is why meetings have motions to gather support from the SRC in advance of any advocacy that is taking place. Moving on to the ARC board. Okay, again, I won't go into the sort of nitty-gritty of this, but can I just get a show of hands? Does anyone actually know what the ARC board is? No one in the room. No one online. Incredible. I mean, Paige, you will soon. And Lucy, I don't know why your hand wasn't up.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so the ARC board is essentially the body of people that make these strategic decisions for the organisation. So they're not into the operational nitty-gritty of how much a beer costs at the Roundhouse, but they will decide that X percentage of the Roundhouse's events, maybe student-focused events versus commercial events. We focus on the big, I say we, I'm actually not on the board, but I am the company secretary, so I'm closely aligned and I'm still an officer of the company. They focus on the big picture and ensures that ARC's delivery is consistently adapting and changing based on the needs of students. It has 15 directors, which is a quite significantly large board and not the size that you would usually see or typically see of organisations. The reason for this is because 10 of those people on the board are UNSW students. 8 of them are elected students during the board elections in term 1 every year. They run for a 2-year term, so every year 4 directors change. So it's 4 new and then another 4 new and then 4 new. So we don't have a full turnover of 8 every year. And then the other 2 students are what we call ex officio students or student directors, which means that they are on the board by definition of their elected positions, which would be Paige as the incoming SRC president and Anthony as the incoming PGC president. So 10 of those 15 directors on the ARC board are students. The other 5 directors, one of them is the CEO. She's another ex officio director. So if she was to ever leave and someone else replace her, that person becomes a director on the board. We have 2 alumni directors, which are typically people that have had heavy involvement with ARC in the past and then have gone off into the big wide world, had a job for 10 years and have decided they want to come back and be a part of the kind of governing body of ARC. And then the other 2 are UNSW directors. Now, these directors are appointed by the Office of the VC, but we have a bit of sort of sway in not necessarily the specific person that they appoint to put on the board, but more so we can highlight an area of the university that we would like to work with more closely. So essentially a position that might be of benefit to ARC. The position for them on the board is not an oversight position. It's representative of the connection that we have to UNSW, and it sort of adds leverage to our initiatives and our advocacy with the university. It kind of keeps that line tangible. At the moment, we have 1 vacancy, which is hopefully going to be filled this week, and the other UNSW director is Aaron Magna, who works in, I think previously was in the legal team, but is now, I believe, a lecturer. Any other questions on the structure of the board? No, brilliant. Moving on. This is just a visual representation of everything I've just said. So you can see that we have the chair of the board. The chair of the board is always a student. So at the moment it is Oliver Pike, who actually featured on one of the slides earlier. And then you have Shelley, the CEO. I sit alongside her. As you can see, I'm a floating box on my own because I'm not actually on the board. And then you can see the breakdown of those student directors, alumni directors, uni directors, and then Paige and Anthony as SRC and PGC directors. And just for reference, the SRC and PGC directors are voting members of the board. They're not sort of figurehead positions. They do have a say on the board. Next slide, please. This is just a visual representation of the structure of the committees. So we have the board of directors, which is 15. Then there are 4 committees that operate under it: finance, nominations and remunerations, SDC, and audit and risk. And then as you can see there, you've got the SRC and the PGC that report sort of directly into board, usually via the SDC, because that's the committee that focuses on student programs the most. But the SRC and PGC do have a tangible connection to the ARC board. The IRC is sort of a dotted line because they we fund them, but they sort of operate themselves and we just help them with their administration and budgeting requests. If you have any questions or comments or need to escalate anything to the ARC board, your first point of contact should always be the SRC president, as they are a member of the board, and then she can direct you onto the relevant person or can find out the answer or can investigate further. If you have any admin or governance related questions or issues, please contact myself or Lucy. Or if you have anything that you really do need to get in touch with the chair of the board or the CEO of ARC, then you can reach out to them directly to make an appointment and have a meeting. Ollie actually lives on campus, so is relatively easy to get hold of after hours. I seem like after work hours. And Shelley sits in the bunker underneath the office you are all in now in a glass office, so you can always see whether she's there or not, which is majority of the time she's there. Any questions on any of the things that I've rambled about so far? Incredible. Now we're going to move on to some departmental introductions. So there are members of members of the ARC executive team who are here to present, although I believe I can only see 2 of them online. So I'm going to go to those 2. And Lucy, if you could nudge the others to come in. I think the ones missing are Jason, Mitch, Steph or Eric. And Yowie is on leave, so potentially Steph or Eric could cover off clubs as well. I don't know if you want to just nip out, Lucy, and see if Steph's at her desk.
I think she is.
Okay.
She is.
You can hear her. Amazing. All right, we're going to start because Luke, I saw you've turned your camera on, so we'll start with the most exciting department. Over to you, Luke. You're on mute.
Oh, wow. What an introduction. Hello, everybody. My name's Luke. I'm the Director of Corporate Services for ARC. So I'm responsible for finance, IT, HR, building services, payroll, and workplace health and safety. So all the interesting bits of the organisation, but I would say the vital bits. Just to let you know a bit about me, I as you can tell from my accent, I'm English, and I was a huge advocate of student activism when I was at university. I went on the Free Nelson Mandela marches in London back in the 90s. That was my introduction to student activism at the age of 17, and I've never stopped ever since. So I fully support the SRC and its lobbying activities. We have 50 permanent staff and over, so between 110 and 150 casual staff at any one time. So we're quite a large organisation. Obviously, the vast majority of our casual team are students, which is great because we're giving jobs to students. The big key projects that we've got coming in 2023 is cybersecurity. So we've already had a huge investment in ARC in ensuring that all the data that we have internally, all the membership data of the students that are members of ARC and other really important data such as HR information is stored according to regulations. And we invested in a piece of software called CrowdStrike, which is about protecting all the laptops that we issue to all our staff and other people who work for the organisation, making sure that data is secure. Other exciting thing for me personally is we're going to be implementing a new HR platform next year. If any of you have been members of staff for ARC, you might have come across Connex, which is a bit out of date, and so we're going forward with a new system, and that will be a huge project with a lot of involvement from departments all across the organisation to implement that in 2023. So I won't bore you any further, but thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great year.
Thank you very much, Luke. I'll go for the people that are online first. So Luke, that was you. David Lunam, are you there and able to give a little intro? There you are, slowly but surely.
Good morning, Joelle, and morning to everyone in the new SRC. Welcome to your roles, and I wish you the very best for 2023. David, I'm part of the ARC legal and advocacy team, and we are usually one of the departments that SRC and PGC have quite a bit to do with during their terms. Our main roles are giving legal advice to the student community and also to ARC internally when matters come up. The typical things that we see are housing issues, social security matters, so lots of interactions with Centrelink and other government departments, traffic matters. Immigration is probably my biggest separate area. So I trained as a migration agent several years ago, and so I've been doing a lot of work for the international cohort and advising students on issues, whether it's relating to their student visas or seeking temporary or permanent residence after they graduate. We also give advice to students on internal university matters, and that can be anything from a complaint about a lecturer, a complaint about the structure of a course, academic misconduct, fee remission, special consideration at the end of each term when academic appeals come through. So if students are on if they're facing possible suspension or exclusion because of results, we help out quite a large cohort of people at that time of year, each term, trying to help them stay at university. And I suppose we basically just deal with, all manner of random things that come up as well. And some of that does come from the office bearers. It might be an issue about discrimination. It might be an issue of university policy that's changing that we'll have some buy-in to. That's about everything. I might pass over to the next colleague, unless Caleb. So we are enormous. No, we're not. Probably the smallest team of any team across the country, but we do we work pretty hard, and we've together, Linda and I, the other person in the team is Linda, so we've got quite a lot of experience in this area. So hope to meet you if we haven't met already, and as I said, good luck with your term. See you around.
Thank you very much, David. I've put this in the chat, but just wanted to emphasise that David and Linda's service is a free legal service to ARC members. So if you do have any questions or want to make an appointment or need to refer anyone there, please go for it. There's a page that I will go through later on today, which will have all the contact details for all of the very important people at ARC that you may need to contact in your roles. Thank you, David. I'm just going to see if anyone else is online. No, we don't have anyone online. Okay, I can't see who's in the room, so I'm going to relinquish my control and just let you guys decide who's going to go first.
Sure. Hello to those online. I'm just going to be talking to people.
Just side of room and we can address both the camera.
I'm already here. My name is Eric and I'm the head of volunteering. I work just in this office out here. We look after a range of volunteering programs, I think about 25 in total at the moment. They range from everything from sustainability to programs dedicated to international, interstate and rural students, to general community programs. You'll find it's very busy during the term and it's quite a bustling office, but most of what everyone's focusing on now is the upcoming orientation and O Week, which can't see heads up. I also look after reception, so if you ever have any issues with things like resource bookings, that'll come through ARC reception. So any issues there, feel free to always just pop by and have a chat. Like I said, my desk is just out there.
Yes, it's coming. Okay, we're doing this. Hello, everyone. And hello to those in person. My name is Steph. My pronouns are she, her. And I look after all of the wellness stuff at ARC. So I think there is definitely a lot of space to work with you guys, even if it's just to chat about things or if you have events and activities that you want to do around wellbeing. The biggest focus in wellbeing for my team is mental health. As we probably can all recognise, that's one of the most sort of important areas for students. Whoever the incredible welfare officer is, hello, I'm sure we'll be in touch. But obviously, mental health and wellbeing does extend across so many different areas, and a lot of what SRC is about making students thrive, and that's a lot of what I do too. I think the main things that we do is definitely based in events. You might have seen the Wellness Warriors, our volunteers, out and about on campus, things like Stress Less Week, but we also do a lot of like physical paper resources, but also online resources as well. That's me. I also sit in this office. Please come and chat anytime. More than happy to talk about things related to wellness or not. Always happy to chat. So let me know if I can be helpful. Otherwise, very excited for you guys. Congrats on the roles. I'm going to try to talk to both because hello, I'm Scarlett. My pronouns are she, her. I'll just speak a little bit about the clubs team. So we look after about almost 300 student clubs, all different kinds, all different sizes.
We look after things like making sure they are following good governance practices, but also obviously helping them know what that is. That's new for a lot of students, helping with resources, troubleshooting, grievances, that kind of thing. So obviously we are hoping that students come to us with any questions, concerns about clubs, but obviously they'll come to fellow students and student reps as well. So please do come to us with any questions, concerns that we can help give advice or support on with clubs. And we also work closely with legal to help with some of those issues as well. The club team is 4 full-time staff. Is it 4? Yeah, 4, and then 3 students as well. I'm taking off that hat for 12 months. So James is the club's manager for the next 12 months. And I'll be working on things like that new HR system that Luke was talking about earlier. But yeah, so that's clubs. I sit in this office here, but the clubs team mainly works from the club space just next to the Bassett Steps.
I'll try to get you started. Nice to meet all of you and everyone online as well. My name's Mitch and my pronouns are they, them. My role is the Director of Marketing and Experience, which means that any comms that you guys want to do or that we do comes through my team. We sit downstairs from here. It's called the bunker or level ground or something like that, but we like to call it the bunker because it's got a really nice World War II energy to it. But we can support you guys with any of your marketing and comms ambitions. So video production, merchandising, flyers, graphic design, help you with your website uplift. Anything like that is stuff that we're really, really happy to get around and support because we know that you getting great messages out and engaging students means really good comms. I'm joined by my colleague Ife today. She's our comms manager and she will be a point of contact for you as well if you do need assistance or support with anything. We will talk to you very soon about merchandise because if it doesn't go to print in the next week, it won't arrive for O week. So we have some urgent requirements. But yes, like with the others, you're more than welcome to come chat to me, chew the fat, talk about anything that relates to your areas from a marketing lens, because we're always happy to hear your new ideas and stuff like that. I'm going to just spin around and put another hat on. So now I am Jason Lyons, pronoun. And Jason is from the Roundhouse. He's head of venue and events. And the way that he can support you guys is that the Roundhouse is a facility that we manage and operate, which means that it's fully accessible to you guys to book for any events that you might have on. So thinking about things like meetings or big events like a conference or a plenary or a gig or anything that you might want to do, the Roundhouse is a great space to do it. I like it because it's like the only non-scholarly space on campus. It like feels like a student space, unlike every other building, which is where people study. So that's a really cool energy there as well. They can do catering, they can do AV. So definitely get around them and use that space as well. And Jason's team's more than happy to support with any event bookings. We have an allocation of like space that comes to you guys for free. We call it like an internal booking, but then there are additional things that you'll have to pay for out of your own budget line. So sometimes, like for example, live streaming, if you wanted to get some like sophisticated live streaming, that's something that you just, it's very cheap, but you do have to pay for it because we get casual labor in to do that as well. I see a hand up. Can I support that person at all?
Yeah, that's Rosie.
It's a mystery hand behind it is.
Rosie, go for gold.
Sorry, that's actually just my computer glitching out. I'd love to
ask a question just to make me feel
Actually,
really
I know,
good.
I've got a question.
Yes.
What's the type of, say if we wanted to approach you, Mitch, for marketing stuff, what's the type of turnaround that we'd be looking at?
The answer is always like the more lead, the better. Because the reason is we're trying to triage all the organizational needs at any one time. So the studio is not just sitting there waiting for jobs to come in so we can design them straight away. So if it's digital, like we want it 2 weeks before you want it. So say, for example, you're launching a Facebook event and that is in March. You want to launch it in February, we're going to need it 2 weeks before the start of February. Would be ideal, but we know that like it doesn't happen. So as much notice as you can give us is good, but just being realistic that if things need to go to print, like flyers, for example, they're hard to turn around in a couple of days.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. Actually, I did think of another question too that could be useful. What are the type of spaces that we could hire in the Roundhouse? Like, what does that look like? What space, how many people do the spaces cater for and stuff, and what activities could be done in them?
Totally. So this is a great question. The Roundhouse is a multi-purpose facility that has capacity for up to 2,200 punters at any one time. I highly doubt that you would ever use it to that capability, but like the door is totally open. I don't want to rule it out. Heapscape puts on a massive party there for Mardi Gras, so it's totally able to do that. But you guys can book any of the spaces in there, and if you ever want to have a tour, I'm sure the team would love to show you around. But the main ones are the main room, which is that big kind of round flat sport floor space with the raised stage and the 3 projector screens. That could be for a dinner, that could be for a gig, that could be for a talk, that could be for a movie screening. There's lots of things that you can do in that space. The only thing that I would suggest is that is the one that needs to be booked really well in advance. Like you're looking at 3 months to book that in. And what you do is you call them up and you say, can I have a hold on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday for this? And then as you get closer and start to figure out what dates you actually need, you can confirm that with them. Then you have all of the 8 upstairs rooms. So they range from like small classroom style rooms like this, all the way up to Club Bar, which has a bar and a small raised stage where you can do, where you were there for the election, like the EGM there recently, like this. You can put on a lot of different stuff there. I know that colleges have done stuff like Jam in a Jar has been done in that space before as well. You've got the beer garden. You can book a few tables at the beer garden for your meetings, your drinks, your socials, whatever. And then there's also the collab spaces, which are downstairs on the outside of the main room. And they are less bookable because they're meant to be open at all times, but they're not very busy. So they're just a nice different space if you ever want to have like a working group or a social gathering. They're a great space to do that as well. They're a bit more like loungy and comfortable. But I'm sure all of this information is captured on the SRC info page that Joelle and Lucy have created. But also, like, come walk through the space. I think that's always the best way to familiarise yourself.
Cool. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Rosie.
We have another hand from Michael. Over there.
Yes, I had a question in regards to like prettying up each section. So I know that for like different SRC kind of areas, there's a specific page on ARC. Would we be talking to you if we want to make our page a little bit prettier, or sort around some details around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lucy and Joelle, I'm not sure what their website training looks like. Is it by request or?
I literally just wrote it down. We will schedule some website training primarily with the president and GenSec, as well as the reps that have a dedicated page. So like the queer space, the disabilities space, etc. So I'll send an invitation to all of those people to gather some availabilities, and then I'll tee you up with Mitch to go through some website training. But Mitch is also there to take questions on how to make something more functional.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael.
Jason Lyons, I love that you've joined, but Mitch actually put your hat on for a minute there and gave the Roundhouse spiel.
Oh, was it good? Did he do good?
They did do good.
As an ex-Roundhouse intern, I think I did you proud.
It was identical.
Oh, okay. My work here is done. Sorry, I've had a client meeting run overtime. Hello, everybody.
That's okay. At least now everyone has a face to the name.
With the background, not because of his behaviour.
If
Awesome.
anyone has
Any
thought
other
of
questions for me?
Or for Jason?
Or Jason? Or my alternate self? Cool. Thank you so much, guys.
Do you want to put on Yowie's hat while you're here?
Oh, should I?
Yeah, go for it.
Why don't we get Jason to be Yowie?
Pardon?
I said we could get Jason to be Yowie and just keep passing the
For a
buck.
full circle moment. Well, we also have James Yao, who's a long-standing ARC staff member who at the moment is heading up ARC Sport. He's done lots of hats around student engagement. But like the Village Green is our space. It's freaking amazing. So if you ever want to put events on or activations or work alongside sport on anything, they have their amazing She Can program. They do Learn to Play. They do social sport. All of these things are things that the SSC and collectives can plug into. It's not something that we traditionally do. Like we don't normally have a strong connection between them, but it's totally open as an option there. But if you want to ever book that space or if you want to activate or engage in any of that way, James Yao is the best starting point for that as well.
And they've got a host of other sports resources as well. So if you're looking to run games separate to the actual space, there's plenty of resources there that you can make use of as well.
Yeah.
Really hoping by the transformation speak that
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to everyone that joined online. You can drop off now. I will put everyone's contact details on the SRC page that I will share with you shortly, and you can get in touch with anyone and everyone that you need to. We are bang on time. I'm very impressed. So we're about to head into the most exciting segment and maybe the most important segment of your induction today. Sorry, Nick. Sorry, Paige. Which is ARCS, admin and budget. Let me just get my slides up on my end as well so that I can remember. Okay, so the slide before this was actually a big diagram of the sort of organizational structure of ARC. I'm not going to go through it, but it will be in the pack if you want to go through and kind of look at all the different positions that exist and departments that exist. Go for gold. If you have any questions about any of the people you've met today, let me know. All right, so the objectives of Lucy and I's little session today are to understand your role requirements in terms of paperwork and online training, to talk through your ARC accounts, to understand your budget and the elusive accrual process. We'll introduce the SRC Insider, which is essentially a page on the website that has links to everything you could possibly need. And if you notice anything missing, let me know. And then lastly, just to go through the SRC spaces that you guys have access to. I will head over to Lucy in terms of paperwork.
Yeah, so everyone should have received an email from me with a letter of appointment. So within that, there's a due date. So obviously it's due on the 28th of November, and just make sure that you get everything back by that date. So just a note to all the office bearers, you'll be back paid from your commencement day if you've successfully completed everything by the due date. So just make sure that you do complete that by that day. If you do complete it after the day, you won't be back paid to your commencement day. And also just within your letter of appointments, there's a role, start date, end date, the allowance, and the policies that you just need to take and acknowledge and sign down the bottom. And also just make sure that you complete your employment form. So you can attach your tax declaration form within that. So if you have attached that, you don't need to email us separately. And also lastly, just make sure that you complete your online training tenure modules by the due date as well. Okay, so you also have an ARC account and ARC IT access to email and OneDrive, and credentials for that will be sent on the 30th of November. And you'll have access to SRC Teams with the credentials as well. And just a note that the President and GenTech will be given own access to the Teams. So we do highly recommend you to set up forwarding rules to your personal emails, just to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the important emails that get sent. So for any IT issues, please contact, there's an email here, that's the ARC IT team. So if you do contact me or Joel for any IT issues, we'll most likely forward it over to them as well. So it will just be quicker if you just email them yourselves. So this contact will be in the SRC Insider page that will show you. And also lastly, so you have the SRC spaces and clear space. So within that, you also have a printer at the SRC spaces. And there are usage limits, so 100 for color prints and 200 for black and white. For that, you'll just need to log in using your ARC accounts on that PC in the room there, and you need to add that printer name, which is this one here. Any questions on that?
I'll just add that Lucy will send a reminder email likely next week to everyone that has outstanding paperwork or training, and just outline what's missing, just in case you think that you've done the paperwork and you're actually missing one form. So that'll come out before the due date, so you've got some time to sort of rectify that. With regards to the spaces, so they're just a bit further up Bassett Stairs. There's the welfare, ethno, cultural, disability and women's space. And then there is also a queer space that you can get in touch with the queer officers to get access to. Those printer limits are per month. but I will talk through getting access to or being able to do larger print quantities if you need to in my future slides. Which is now. Okay, Lucy, do you want to click on the SRC Insider page and share screen, and we can quickly talk through that? Yeah. So the SRC Insider page, again, we'll send this package out to you of these slides, so you've got the link. We encourage you to bookmark it because it'll be a page that you use pretty often, and it's not searchable, so it's not a page that someone coming to the ARC website can navigate to. It's a specific link for the SRC, so you can only get to it if you've got the link. And this page covers off things like how to submit for expenditure approvals, how to book things, how to advertise vacant positions or how to resign, God forbid, from your role if you need to, and how to submit your reports for meetings. The first thing we'll cover off, but I will talk to it in more detail afterwards, is the SRC budget. So it is not yet approved, which is why I can't share it with you. It is going to board next week. As soon as the board approves it, which I don't imagine they won't, that is the budget for the entire organisation, which includes the SRC and PGC budgets. As soon as that's approved, we will upload a copy of it to this page so that you can see what your allocations are to the different collectives, etc. There is an expenditure form. So if you would like to click on this, Lucy, we will quickly run you through it. The process for for spending money in your budget is that you submit the expenditure form first. You answer this question: have you already submitted the form for approval for the expense? Yes or no. Self-explanatory. Initially, you will tick no. Then you put in the details of the expenditure. So who you are, your position, which expenditure line you're trying to or you'd like to spend the money from, a bit of a description of what it's for, and you can attach a copy of the quote or receipt, quote or like a website link showing how much X thing is going to cost, and you submit. This email then goes through, or a copy of this is sent to the president and to myself and Lucy. The president will approve it. Once they have approved it, you will get a notification, and then you can go ahead and actually incur the expense. So for clarity's sake, do not incur or spend any money until it's been approved by the PGC president. So don't go and buy the thing and then ask for approval for it. You need to get the approval first because you don't know how, potentially it's coming out of a shared line or that money's been allocated elsewhere. So you need to make sure that the president has approved the expense before you incur it. Once the president has approved it, you then come back and do the form a second time for the actual payment of the thing. So you would come through and you would tick yes, you have already submitted. And then you are choosing between I've already paid for the expense and I need you to pay me back, or I've got an invoice and I need it to be paid. Sometimes for the smaller things like buying some food or getting some things from Woolies or, I don't know, train tickets, parking tickets, whatever it might be, you might just cover the expense yourself because it's quicker and easier. Just make sure you keep the receipt. We need the valid tax invoice as well as a screenshot of your bank account to show the payments come out. Where possible, please don't pay with cash. It makes our lives easier because then we can validate the expense a little bit more easily. You pop in your details here, again, the expenditure line, a copy of the receipt, and you submit, and then we will organise the payment for you. I think that's relatively self-explanatory. In terms of expenses, if you have a expense that is urgent or that needs to be paid by a specific date, please get the approval and the payment form in as soon as possible. For your records, ARC makes external payments on a Friday. So we pay all of our external vendors in a payment run that happens every Friday, but we need a few days in order to get the approvals on our end sorted and for it to be loaded into the system. So you submitting it to us late on a Wednesday or on a Thursday is likely to miss that Friday's payment run, and it won't happen until the next week. That being said, if there is something, there was something that stopped that from happening, or it's extremely urgent that something is paid, get in touch with Lucy or I and we can see what we can do. But essentially, the earlier the better, gives us the most amount of time to get it through our payment and finance system for payments on Fridays. Any questions on that before I talk about accruals? Okay. Accruals are the thing that seems to stump everyone every year, and I still haven't finessed the best way to explain it, but I'm going to do my best. Ask me questions throughout your term if you need me to explain it again. So if you can go back to the very beginning of the form, Luce. Okay, so you're ticking no here because you haven't submitted the form. What is important to understand is while the SRC is allocated a budget, every collective or every different line in that budget is split out into a monthly expense. So while your collective might have, I don't know, $1,000 to spend for the year, it is split out evenly over each month because we have to account every month we go through and we reconcile our accounts. It's a financial or accounting standard that we have to abide by. We do monthly accounting and then we close off each quarter. If you have money allocated in, let's say, January, and you know that you're not going to spend that money in January, but you're going to hold an event in March that aligns with something your collective is doing, you can accrue the money from January and February into March for that event. All I need to know is what that event is and when it's going to be held. We can't just accrue, I have leftover money, take it through to the next month. Our auditors won't let us do it, and we get pulled up if we just have an accrual without anything to tie it to. So essentially, in order to spend money that is unspent each month, you fill out this form, you tick yes for accrual, you give me the date of the expense, and then later on you tell me what it is and which month you're going to accrue it to. So again, it might be that Rosie wants to accrue a bunch of her budget through to NAIDOC week. She would tell us that it's for that, and then I can accrue it all the way across to the event. I cannot accrue without a reason. Sorry?
Are you targeting me because I've done this?
Look, honestly, your name was the first one in my list and I was trying to think of an example, so I am targeting you. But yes, if you have an event that's happening or you know that you're going to spend it for something else, I just need to know what it's for. Does that make sense? Incredible. I imagine that it won't make sense very soon, so please come back and ask me the question, but it is very important that you submit these forms and I need them within the first few days of each month. Ideally by the end of the month, but I'll give you a few days leeway because then I have to do all of my accruals and I submit them to finance, and if you miss the boat, I can't do the accrual because then those reports go to board and I can't change them afterwards. So at the end of each month, think about what's left in your budget, think about what you want to spend it on and submit this form as soon as possible so that I can accrue the money into the following month. Amazing. Next slide. Actually, we're not doing slides. We'll go through the form. That's fine. Okay, printing request. This is if you want to print something in bulk. We do a lot of printing for the SRC through ARC reception. So we just need you to submit this form. Give us 2 days, 2 working days. Please don't submit this form on a Friday afternoon and expect to pick up at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. We need 2 business days. You just need to submit this form. Tell us what you want printed. There's an attachment function at the bottom. Tell us how many quantities, what size, black and white or colour. It's relatively self-explanatory. And then once the president has approved it, I can see Paige has left the room now, so I will remind her of this later. President needs to approve the printing because there is a small cost that's associated per copy that's printed. And then we'll send the request to ARC reception and get them to print it for you. If you want something printed during a hectic time of year, for example, O Week, please submit this early because O Week is bonkers for ARC reception. And sometimes they just might not get to your request in time. So give us as much notice as possible. Please don't submit the request and then turn up at reception a few hours later looking for the printing. We need to give them time to process it. Any questions on budget or printing? Incredible. This HR section is just in terms of the positions. So the first box will take you through to any vacant positions that are currently open. So you can share that link with anyone that you might want to encourage to nominate for a position that's vacant. The middle form is the resignation form. God forbid you would like to resign from your position on the council, you need to submit that form. And then the last form is for the president and GenSec for them to decide that they want to re-advertise for the relevant position. So we will go through that form with the president GenSec. Next is bookings. So you've got a link there to the Roundhouse booking form, booking inquiry form. As Mitch mentioned, if you have any events in your head that you want to run in 2023 and you would like it to be at the Roundhouse, please, I beg you, get in touch with the Roundhouse as soon as possible and try and hold those dates for the space that you want. Because of obviously what's happened over the last few years. There are a lot of rescheduled gigs and conferences that have been pushed into the back end of this year and into 2023. It'll be less so towards the back end of 2023, but I know that the first sort of half of the year, there are already very limited availabilities for that main room anyway. So if you have any events that you'd like to run, give the Roundhouse some dates or give them a month and say, you know, we want to run something in March on a Tuesday. What have you got? And try and get that secured as soon as possible. The CATS room booking, I'm not sure if CATS is actually a term that students are familiar with, but basically CATS rooms are all of the lecture rooms, all of the university rooms on campus, aside from the hospitality ones like Scientia. These are all the indoor spaces on campus that ARC doesn't run, but we can book them for you. So you fill out this form, and in the list, it'll have all of the different clubs and societies to choose from. Scroll to the very bottom of that list and you will see there is SRC, PGC and IRC. Just make sure you choose the relevant one for SRC, and then that way the form comes through to Lucy and I, and we can request the booking through the university and then confirm it for you. There is also the outdoor spaces booking form, which is for you to book the quad or alumni lawn or any of the other sort of outdoor spaces on campus. You can complete that form, and again, we will help you process that. Resources bookings is things like tables, chairs, picnic rugs. I don't know, you want to borrow the giant Connect 4 or Jenga, you can complete that form and you can book that from RARC reception. This event risk form is a new form. The old SRC didn't have it. Let's just quickly open it and run through it. This form is to assess the risk of your event, if you want to run one, and whether it will be covered under ARC's public liability insurance. So essentially what we need you to do is give us the details of the event. Is it on campus? Is it off campus? Does it involve, you know, regional travel? Is there alcohol involved? Are you serving food? Yada, yada, yada. Fill out this form. It'll come through to me and Lucy. We'll assess it and we'll let you know whether a risk assessment's required. Maybe you're doing something that involves like adventure sports and we need to have many more parameters in place. Or you're running a Bunnings barbecue and we just need to be able to tell you that, yes, your event is covered under ARC's public liability insurance, and we can give you a copy of the certificate so that you're covered. So this form is important when you're running something yourself. If your event is at the Roundhouse, you don't need to do this form unless it's in exceptional circumstances, because the Roundhouse will help you with your risk assessments and approvals. They're obviously not going to let you run an event with, you know, wild tigers in the main room for obvious reasons. So this is for any other events that you are planning. And then lastly, there's a copy of the risk template or risk assessment template, which is basically a quick and easy form that you fill out in terms of being able to prove to us or the university, depending on the situation, that you have thought about all of the risks of your event. Obviously, if you're having an information stall in the quad, probably not needed, but if you're running a cruise with alcohol and food, then you need to fill out the form. And then the next section, okay, every time there is an SRC meeting, a week before, there is a reminder in all of your calendars that your papers are due. That reminder, I think, is set for roughly 9 or 10 a.m, or it will be set. We haven't set the calendar invitations out yet, for roughly 9 or 10 a.m. You need to submit your reports by that time. Once Lucy has collated the papers and circulated them, any late papers become the responsibility of Paige and the GenSec to collate and circulate. Every office bearer and counsellor is required to give an update at each SRC meeting. Typically, this is done via the submission of a form. You can give a verbal update. It's less desired. The report is preferable. So please complete this form. Basically, it's a summary of everything that you've been up to since the last meeting, and so that you can keep yourself accountable and the council is aware of what you're doing. And also it allows for opportunity for collaboration where you might not have known something was going on. So these forms are very important. And then the other form is the motions form. So there are 3 types of papers that you can submit to a meeting: matter for noting, matter for discussion, matter for decision. Matter for noting is that it's just, we want you to know this is going on. Matter for discussion is we want to discuss this thing and maybe come to a consensus so that we can submit a matter for decision later. And matter for decision, also self-explanatory. We want the SRC to support XYZ. These papers are due at the same time as the others. Please make sure you submit them in time. That is all I have to say on that. All right, there's a link to the Teams channel. Whether you use it or not is up to you. There is a link to the Constitution and Regulations so that you can have some bedtime reading, and the SRC Charter is linked there too, which will be updated because the new charter is going to board next week, just with some updates to some of the content. So that will be updated shortly. There will be a link here to the recording from today so you can listen to my voice again, and also a copy of the presentation pack with all the links in it. And then all of your useful contacts are underneath. Anyone got any questions? Incredible. Back to the PowerPoint, key dates coming forward. We've got on Thursday, the 8th of December, part 2 of your inductions, which is more of a workshop vibe. We will do the EDI team at UNSW is always very keen to work with the SRC and the PGC, so they will be reaching out to Paige to organise a bit of a presentation to the council. It'll likely be just before or just after or even during one of your SRC meetings, just to make it a little bit easier, but they will get in touch, so you will have that presentation next year. And you all have an email from Lucy earlier on I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, around some gendered violence awareness and response training. The due date for filling out that form was today, so if you can please look for it and fill it out. Essentially, the GVRN, which is Gendered Violence Research Network team at UNSW, along with CIO, which is Conduct and Integrity Office, are happy to deliver a 2-pronged approach to SRC, PGC and IRC. One of them is an awareness piece, so just to get you across what's going on at UNSW, what you can do, how you can help, and the policies that exist. And then the response training is more specific to people that think that they might be likely to receive disclosures of gendered violence related incidents and how you can best support those people. So please complete that form for your availabilities and interests as soon as possible so that we can get that scheduled for early 2022. If you would like any other training, please reach out to the president or to Lucy or I, whether that be that you want to organise a council-wide disability training or a LGBTQIA+ sensitivity training, or I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but anything else that you think the council needs, please reach out and we will do our best to either connect you with the right person or organise a training for you, or find people from previous councils. A lot of them can be super insightful as to providing training for you. Any questions? Because that is the end of me. Oh, there is one at the back. I can't see who that is. Sorry.
Sorry, Hannah, Environment
Hi,
Officer. One of the things that Grassroots talked about for this upcoming election was doing anti-colonial training for the council and for ARC as well. So we haven't really gone through how that would be formatted or anything like that, but should I come to you if we have any discussions about that?
Yeah, come to me and we'll have a chat about it.
Okay.
Anyone else? No. Look, I know that was a lot to take in. Some of you, i.e. Leora and Rosie, have heard this all before. I love that it's a refresher for you, but if you have any questions, please come to us. I understand that it's a lot to absorb and retain, especially given that you're about to go into break, as in at the end of year break, and it might all be dust by January. So please get in touch. That takes us to our actual break. So we will, let me just check the schedule. How are we running for time? I think I spoke quickly enough that I gave you guys a slightly longer break than we anticipated. Amazing. Yep, we'll be back here at 11:30. So you can take 15 minutes, go to the bathroom, go grab some snacks. And we'll be back here at 11:30 for Nick's session on how to deal with UNSW. I've read the slides. I look forward to it. Thanks, team.